All right, good morning, everyone. I would have loved to do this in Ijebu language, but for the benefit of all um, Yoruba sons and daughters and anyone who might be interested in the trending topic about the burial rites of our revered monarch, the late Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Dr. Sikiru Kayode Adetono Ogbagba II. Um, there has been a lot of issues about why they did not allow tradition to take its course on his burial. And these are my thoughts. First and foremost, even though I'm a Christian, but I believe that traditional rulers who came in through traditional ways should be buried through traditional ways. And that you can't be a traditional ruler and then be playing hide and seek. Most often than not, even though during the time of the Awujale, he didn't fight for it, he didn't lobby for it. They had to recall him back from the UK where he went to study to come and be king about 65 years ago. But in the recent time, we have seen a lot of people who lobby for it, who spend a lot of money, who use a lot of political powers and connection to get to the traditional throne. And none of those who are lobbying or struggling will deny the fact that as a traditional title holders, you have to go through some traditional processes and customs before you get crowned. And because of their desire to be on the throne, they will go through all these rites. And eventually, when they get to the throne, they will now be playing the game of I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, therefore I can't do this traditional, this or that traditional, that. And that for me is the height of hypocrisy. Now, I am not happy that the traditional um, practice holders were not allowed at the Oba's burial so that they can perform their traditional roles, even if the body will now be eventually released to the Muslim people, but that they should perform their traditional role. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why I am not happy. When the Oba came in, he came in through traditional rites and processes. He enjoyed the benefit of the traditional rites and processes. In fact, the reason why we respect him, we honor him, we revere him as Ijebu people is because we call him Orisha Ijebu. The Oba embodies the Orisha Ijebu. So if the Orisha Ijebu is now being buried by the Orisha Mecca, then it shows to us that something is wrong somewhere. And I understand all the fears and the sentiment that some of these people have about body mutilation and all the rest. But if we understand the fact that if truly we are going to be resurrected, this body, whether it is mutilated or not, is going to be eaten up by maggots in the grave at the end of the day, then I don't think we should have any reason to be worried as to what will be done to our body before it is buried, because it is only few people who are lucky to die properly, maybe in their sleep or in their home amongst family and friends. Some people die in road accidents that you won't even see a single part of their body. Recently, Diogo Jota, a 28-year-old footballer, died and was burnt beyond recognition. Now, what would that person say about his body being preserved and this and that? I'm not using it to mock those who died in such circumstances, because those who are alive do not know what death will kill them eventually. But I'm only using it as an example of how and why we need not to be worried as to what will happen to our body. In fact, there are so many unbelievers and even believers alike who have donated their bodies to science research and organization. Some have even donated parts of their body that will be useful to other people. Some have donated their liver, kidney, eyes, heart, any part of their body that may still remain useful to other people who are yet alive, such that when they die, because they have signed the clause to release those parts, then it can be removed by the hospital and then be useful to those who are yet alive. So having a traditional ruler who has enjoyed all the benefits of the office, who has enjoyed all the equity of the office, now shying away, using politics and the law made by politicians who don't know their left from their right, who are only concerned about winning election and therefore will desecrate the most sacred altars for them to win an election or a re-election. Using them to change the law for this purpose is a shameful thing of the highest order. And that is why, for me, I stand with those who are really angry right now. Even though I am not angry, I'm neither here nor there concerning the issue. And you might say maybe because I am also selfish, because the bird has come home to roost, maybe because this is my royal father, someone whom I hold in high esteem. That is why I am not really that angry. But I stand with those who are really miffing at the moment, who are angry that, Awujale had to be buried the way he was buried. But then also, I also understand the fact that those who did Oba for the last Oba before Awujale, that is Oba Daniel Adesanya Gbelebuwa II, those who did Oba for him, all of them have died. And I'm sure that many of their children have died, and probably even their grandchildren too. So the current crops of Oshogbo, except we have a few who are 90-year-old among them, except we have a few, those who are even 70-year-old among them were just babies when the last Oba was done. Those who are 80 years old among them were just 15 years old when the last, believe me, when the last Oba was done. And so therefore the people who are today leading the process of the Oroba, I don't know how well they understand the process for Ijebu, but I also know that they are not novices, because not just in Ijebu, there are about 60 something kings in Ijebu kingdom, and a lot of them have died, and Oroba have been done in several towns and domain under Ijebu kingdom. And so these people, even though they were young, but they would have gone and joined the people in other places to do all this Oroba, and so they will still have learned the rope and understood it. So having said that, with the way Obas are buried right now, I do not think there is any need to say there is a royal family or a royal household. I think every Ijebu man, every Ijebu sons who aspire to become an Oba, just like it is done in Ibadan, could as well, aspire to become an Oba, because what makes the Obaship sacred are some of these rites and cultural procedures that are being done. People can be deceived by the so-called modernity and trying to be more Catholic than the Pope that they do, forgetting that when Queen Elizabeth, for example, a lot of queens or kings in England did not die in recent time. Queen Elizabeth spent about 70 years on the throne or more, before she died. But when she died, the full rites, both those that are done behind the scene and those that are done in front of the camera, were done 4 days before she was eventually buried. England is a Christian nation, an Anglican nation, but there are traditional rites that the Scottish, the Welsh, the Celts, performed on the Queen before she died. And not all of them are brought into the public purview or public view. But yet, the few that we are able to glimpse from the ones that were made public, we know that Oroba was properly done for the Queen. And we can't say we are more developed than England or more sophisticated than England, especially the way our culture and tradition are being desecrated nowadays compared to how tightly protected their own culture were for aeons. The same thing can be said about Japan. you know, up till now, all the traditional rites and processes, you can't even dare think of, you know, proposing a law to subterfuge or bypass the Oroba in Japan. You will have to lose the throne. There was a princess, for example, in Japan recently who wanted to marry a commoner. Just to marry a commoner, she has to leave the throne. She has to forfeit all the benefit that comes from being a princess. The same thing happened to Prince. Is it Prince Harry? I don't know which one is the Egbon or the Abu, the one that married the American. You know, he has to forfeit many of his rights that comes with being a prince, and he's forfeiting it in perpetuity because his children too are not going to benefit because their father had let it go. Let's not forget that it was Queen Elizabeth. So it was Queen Elizabeth's dad's elder brother that was the king. But because she wanted to, I mean, he wanted to marry a commoner who was also a divorcee or something like that, you know, they asked him, choose between this love of your life and the crown. The love of his life. That was how Queen Elizabeth's dad became the king, because his elder brother abdicated the throne, you know, and because he couldn't keep up with the tradition and culture that are surrounding being on the throne. So he left the throne, and his younger brother, Queen Elizabeth's dad, became king. And therefore, his line, his family, you know, lost the throne forever. Let's not forget that in this same Ijebu, between 1882 and 1892, early 1900, there was an event that happened, and because of that event, the Tunwashe ruling house was, you know, removed from those who will be able to rule Ijebu, because Aboki Tunwashe then, I think he ruled in he ruled up to 1895 thereabout. I think from 1882 there were some skirmishes, you know, surrounding our Awujale that died in Ekwe, you know, and was exiled in Ekwe, and all the story behind it. But because Ijebu felt aggrieved that Tunwashe cooperated with the Oyimbos, you know, did not want Ijebu to fight in the Imagbon War. Even when the Oyinbo eventually won the Imagbon War, he cooperated fully with them. And for that reason, they denied the Tunwashe ruling house of ever smelling the throne again. So if that could be done, those who are asking that the Anikilaya ruling house should be, you know, removed from the lines of those who are ruling as a result of this sacrilege that was committed, they are right. They are right. Ní títorí Àwíjàre ká ní kí tó tán lẹ́nu, nítorí pé ọ̀rọ̀ jẹ́ tẹni ká wá máa hide behind a finger, ká máa gbáwájú ká máa gbẹ̀yìn. Ọba òrìṣà ni. In fact, wọ́n máa ń pè ní igbákejì òrìṣà. Ní ilẹ̀ Ìjẹ̀bú kẹ̀dẹ̀rí, ọba la máa ń pè ní òrìṣà Ìjẹ̀bú. So mi ò mọ bí ó ṣe máa jẹ́ pé mùsùlùmí ló máa sin òrìṣà Ìjẹ̀bú. And there is a place where obas are usually buried, not in their private residences, you know. But because of wípé ẹ̀rù ń bà wọ́n wípé bóyá kán máa ṣe kinní kan wọ́n sin sí private residence here. You know, the luck that they are enjoying is because many of our African technology have been watered down. We thank God that they are watered down, because of course with it comes a lot of other, you know, disadvantage. But if those African technologies were not watered down, bá sin sínú ilé ẹ̀, wọ́n á dọ̀fẹ́, wọ́n á wá gbé, kòròfo ló wà ńbẹ̀, wọ́n á wá gbé, wọ́n á lọ pọ̀ sínú ìpèbí, àbí sínú kí lórúkọ ibi táwọn Òṣùgbó ti máa meet, wọ́n á lọ pọ̀ síbẹ̀, wọ́n á dẹ̀ ṣe nǹkan tán fẹ́ ṣe, gbogbo tókù story ni. But maybe those who hold that kind of technology, that kind of power, that kind of knowledge, maybe they are no more, you know, because gbogbo ìtàn ṣe pé sójà gan tá ń bìyà sójà níbi tí agbára wà, tó bá jẹ́ nígbà tí agbára properly tó wà, you know. But having said that, I think it's a shameful one. The Kabiyesi, the governor, and everyone who were part of this misdemeanor, they goofed. Ọjọ́ orí kò ní ṣe pẹ̀lú àgọ̀. Èèyàn lè dàgbà kó gọ̀, èèyàn lè dàgbà kó, and àgọ̀ náà sometimes kò kí ń ṣe pé èèyàn gọ̀. Ìgbà míì selfish interest á jẹ́ kí èèyàn hùwà àgọ̀ nígbà míì, tó jẹ́ pé ó dẹ̀ máa ní ripple effect for a long time. As we continue to water down our traditional rules, rights, and institutions, let's not now complain tomorrow nígbà táwọn ọmọ àtọ̀húnrìnwá tí wọ́n bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ ìsọkúsọ sí àwọn holders of our traditional seats lára. Ìgbà yẹn kọ́ ni kẹsẹ̀ wá máa pè pé Ìjẹ̀bús or your citizen, your subject, that they should rise up in arm to defend you. Because nísìnyí tẹ́ ń jẹ gbogbo ẹ̀, tẹ́ ń ba gbogbo ẹ̀ jẹ́, tó ń tẹ́ yín lọ́rùn, pé Ìjẹ̀bú o, pé àwọn your subjects to rise up. In fact, you denied your subject the benefit of preserving tradition and culture. Either the body right is done on the body or not, ìwà olúkálùkù nílé ayé ló máa determine, àti pé ẹni tí olúkálùkù gbàgbọ́ nílé ayé ló máa determine bóyá ó ń tàn máa dé ọ̀run. Because ní ọ̀run, this body, this flesh is not useful. We are going to take up another form entirely. Anyway, mi ò lọ bọ̀rí, but that's what my Bible made me understand, that it is not this flesh. This flesh will no longer be useful. We are taking up another form entirely. So why should we be worried what is done? In fact, for me, I would always encourage people that we should all go and sign up for those medical research, that when we die, let them take any part of our body that will be useful to someone else, that will save somebody else's life. Because the dead does not know what is going on again. All this sentimental attachment to religion and all the whatnot, is making us become dumb and dumber by the day. If we really want to preserve culture, let us not cherry pick. Let us not pick the one that pays us and enjoy the equity and not the liabilities that come with it. If you have enjoyed the equity of being an Orisha Ijebu for 65 years, you shouldn't be afraid of the liabilities. So for that reason, or the reasons that I've stated above, I stand with those who are complaining and who are angry right now. Even though me, I am not angry. I am neither here nor there. But I just felt that the status quo should remain. Let's not forget that Ogun Kurumi Ijayi, that was fought between 1960, I think, was it October 1860, October 1860 to May or June 1862. It is a situation like this that caused it. Because back then, once the Alaafin dies, his Aremo will be buried with him. But after the Fulani War of 1824, when they killed Afonja and all the rest, and Oyo Ile was moved to, or the Oyo Empire was moved from the old Oyo to the present Oyo town, Alaafin Atiba wanted to change the rule, and so he bribed all the other chiefs and people so that the rule will be changed in favor of not killing Aremo with the Alaafin. It was only Kunumi Ijaye that said the status quo should remain. And because he said the status quo should remain, he did not recognize the new Alaafin. I think it was Alaafin Abiodun that came after Atiba. He did not recognize that Alaafin. And so when that Alaafin wanted to take the right, that usually is the Alaafins, he stood against him, in that when anybody dies intestate without a will, without an immediate family member that will inherit him or her, whatever property that person owns belongs now to the Alaafin once that person died within the domain of the Alaafin. So a particular woman, I've forgotten her name, died, but that person is within the domain of Kurumi Ijaye. But we all know that both the domain of Kurumi Ijaye, the Oyo, the Ibadan, and all the rest belongs to Alaafin. They are under the leadership of Alaafin. So Alaafin sent emissary to go and collect that woman's property, but Kurumi sent his own army to go and intercept them arrest them. And when all diplomatic channel to resolve the impasse failed, that was when Alaafin now sent the war message to Ibadan warriors to go and face off with Ijaye. And that was what led to that 2 years bloody war that claimed over 50,000 men and women of Yoruba land that time. Even though the Alaafin's case is different from this case, because the law that Alaafin made was a good one in saving a life, and making sure that that particular practice is removed. But I am only using it as an example to tell us that, when we begin to water down and change laws after having enjoyed the benefit that law, or that throne affords us, it does not speak well of us as human being. It shows that we are hypocritical human being. Whatever we've been known for, to stand for all our good deed, that hypocritical action, waters it all down. This is my view, and I do not say it as an insult or as a derogation to anybody. Ẹni tó bá bínú, well, I am not apologetic all the same, but it is what it is. Òótọ́ kò ní ká má sọ. Kọ́lọ́run kó má jẹ́ kí àtẹnugbó bí ọwọ́ kó jẹ́ ká rí mi ìsọ̀bódọ́là. Àmín.